Good morning, Yorkshire Classic Cars Limited fans. Sorry I'm a bit out of breath. Just had to run outside to check the camera was pointing in the right direction as I sat in the car. You join me today in sunny Retford, and it is beautifully sunny and Baltically cold out there, but fresh and bright. I'm in the office here. I'm in my civvies because it's not a work day today. I've come to sort of discuss and explain a little bit about the positives and negatives of running your own business. I can only talk about running a restoration company because that's all I own. But somebody once said to me, they don't expect it to all be unicorns and rainbows when you run a business. And I think some people sort of overlook the positives and overlook the negatives and worry about the negatives when maybe they don't need to when it comes to starting your own business. So I thought I'd just dispatch a few myths about why I do it, what's involved in doing it, and why it's a good thing, actually. I will start the video by saying I've had a number of jobs in the past. Some I loved, some I hated, some I started loving and then hated. And all I will say about this is I love doing it. And I think at the end of the day, although I don't make a huge amount of money, I make a lot of money, to be fair, but the fact is, I do enjoy doing it. And for me, I've found that as long as you don't hate the fact that you've got to come to work every day and you enjoy what you're doing, that's the biggest part of the job for me. Making bazillions of pounds is less important. If I had a job where I made millions and I had to work 23 hours a day, I wouldn't enjoy that. I enjoy doing this. I do long hours. It's hard work. It can be difficult work, and it does take a large amount of skills, although I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but there are a lot of things that everybody can't just walk out and do. That being said, nobody woke up this morning able to weld fantastically. I had to learn how to do it. I'm not saying I'm a fantastic welder. What I'm saying is it's more difficult than, say, for example, welding on a bench where everything is clean and brand new. So there are skills you have to learn. Digress. So positives and negatives, and positives that have negative aspects to them probably is the best way of describing it. So number one, for me, lots of people come up here and say, well, I'd love to work here. Oh, I'd love to. Can I buy part of your business? Can I be part of your business? Can I work for you? It's lovely. And it is lovely. I'll show you the view in a minute. I'll cut a section in and I'll show you what it's like out there this morning. It is lovely. The yard is, today it's empty. And when it's quiet like that, it's lovely. Not that I'm particularly, I don't converse a lot with other people in the yard that much, but it is gorgeous up here. So that's a positive. But then setting is, that's just aesthetics, really. One of the things about that is they come up and they say, well, I'd love to do this for a living. It must be great. Do what you like, And partly that's true. I can turn up when I like for work. I can, officially I start at 8 in the morning and finish at 5 o'clock at night. Typically I'll roll up about 8:45, put my phone on at 9, my work phone. But quite often, like on the Austin 1100 I've been doing, if you look at the series of Austin 1100 videos, that has taken a lot of time. And I've been getting here about 8:45, and I've been finishing anywhere around 7:30 on a night to get that done. Now, okay, I charge a day's labour whether I start at 8 in the morning and finish at 8 at night, or start at 9 in the morning and finish at 5 in the afternoon, which is, your 8 hours sort of thing. But that's taken a lot of effort. And the reason that's taken a lot of effort is because you can't get any money into your business until you've done the work. So what that leads me up to is, if you just play it with I can roll up now, I can roll up there, I can do this, I can do that, just roll up around 11 in the morning, do a couple hours, go home, you're not making any money. It's actually costing you money. Whenever you're not here, you're still paying rent on the building, you're still paying electric, you're still paying business rates, you're still paying insurance, all these things are massive outgoings every month. And you've still got to pay those, whether you make a penny or not. And to finish a job, to make any money out of that job, you need to finish it or get to a stage, obviously massive jobs like the massive restorations, those are stage payments. So I don't get to the end and go, oh, by the way, you owe me X £1,000. Every few weeks I invoice at but you have to be at an appropriate juncture to do that. So you can't just go, oh, I'll just keep carrying on and on and on and on. Obviously, it's cash flow. So, okay, keeping your own hours is great. I can do stuff, but when you do have to have a day off, so yesterday I had to nip to the eye clinic to have my eyes looked at because I'm diabetic. They put drops in my eyes, which means I can't come back to work. And that's quite stressful for me because I'm having to have a day off. Now, unfortunately, it's one of those things. But if I was working for someone, I say, look, I've got a hospital appointment, need to go to the eye clinic. And they go, okay. And they pay you, even if it's, I can't remember what it is, they pay you now. I don't know if it's just the sick rate or whatever it is. But the fact is, you still get some money. On that day, it has cost me all my rents and things, but I'm not here. So I'm not actually moving any job further forward, even my own job. So that draws me to number 2. Someone once said to me a long, long time ago, if I had a business like yours, first thing I'd do, make sure my own car was done. The first thing I would do as I open up is get my own car done. Well, that's a good idea in theory. And I get exactly where that's coming from. You want to get your own done. You've got all these facilities, you've got all these parts, this knowledge, these tools, a ramp, a lift, blah, 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 blah. Welders, grinders, all that sort of stuff. However, yet again, which draws me back to making money, while ever I'm working on my car, it is costing me more money than it would to do it at home. Obviously, at home, I only have to pay for the parts, but time comes free. When I'm here, although I don't pay time towards my business for working on my own car, I aren't earning money from anybody else's job while I'm working on my own car. So therefore, any money I spend is actually costing me money in 2 ways. That said, because I don't want to be a bazillionaire, I don't want to be Jeff Bezos, I don't want to be, a bazillionaire. I'm not bothered about that. If I won the lottery, I'd be happy to accept it. But the fact is, I aren't bothered about making millions. I enjoy what I do, and I do it because I enjoy what I do. I have to make a living. It is a job. It isn't a charity, but I do still have to make a living. But because I enjoy that, that's fine. So what I try to do is, once I can relax, once I've got enough money or enough work done so I can charge people enough money that month to cover my bills and me a small wage. And then I will, if I've then got a little time left at the end of the month, I'll spend a couple of days on this. My plan originally was to spend every Saturday morning on my own car. I used to end up spending Saturday mornings working on everybody else's cars, and then I'd sort of forget that because I took it as half a day. But then if you start at 8 on a Saturday and finish at 1, it's more than half a day anyway. It's about 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. So I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to do my own car. But then that draws you then back to, I need this car finished by whenever. So you end up doing it anyway. So like every week for the last few weeks, every weekend I've been doing the little Austin. Some days significantly later than I'm officially allowed to be it. However, that's part and parcel of the nature of the beast. Do I get depressed and down about it? Absolutely not. No, I'm still enjoying doing it. I really want this done, but it's still not a priority in life. I want my own car back on the road. This has been nearly 10 years since I started on this. And yeah, I've lost motivation. I've built other cars in the meantime. I've built a Mark II Escort. I've built Skylines. I've built all sorts. So yeah, anyway, so that takes me on to the next position. The next point, sorry, stresses. Okay, stresses and strains. I do suffer quite badly with stress. I get stressed out about things. It's one of the reasons I aren't a school teacher anymore. Didn't like the stress involved. This job has a lot of stress in it. When you're self-employed, you do have a lot of stress because you are responsible for your own destiny. You are responsible for getting things finished on time. And yeah, there are quite a lot of stresses in, oh my gosh, I need to get this finished so I can get the money in this month to pay me a wage. Now, is it an insurmountable stress? Not really. No, you do come to a point where you've turned enough money where you don't have to worry if the money isn't in by X date. But that takes a number of years to achieve that, I'll acknowledge. But that does come to a point, and you have to sort of look back and think, you know what, I can only do what I can do. There's no point rushing. There's no point killing myself. The job has to be done correctly. Customer stresses, not really. Most customers, virtually all of my customers, I would suggest, are absolutely lovely people. I get on really well with them. Most of them are like friends anyway. They're all car mad, so we have common ground. We all enjoy that. We enjoy the cars that they own because they're the cars that I work on, and that's part and parcel of the job. That draws me to my next point. Somebody commented on my Facebook, a friend I've had since I was at high school, and he said, we were talking about buying tyres for a car, and he said, oh, they're only £400 each. So I went, oof, goodness me, £400? I can't afford that. And he went, well, you've got your own job, you've got your own business, surely you've plenty of money. And I said, no, really not. No, it doesn't work like that. People have this perception that when you own your own business, whatever that business may be, it could be anything. And they have this perception that you are clearly making millions and millions and millions of pounds out of it, or thousands of pounds, or you're living really, really well. It's false. It takes quite a long time to develop a business to a point where you can even pay yourself a wage. I don't think I paid myself a wage for the first 12 months I was open. I don't pay myself a wage every month now. Some months I do, some months I don't. It depends where we're at with, obviously you have to balance out your bills going out, and if you've taken enough to cover those bills and blah, blah, blah. Some months I have a very good month, some months I have a very quiet month, and you kind of have to balance it out. You can't just sort of say, whoa, look, I've made X £1,000 this month, I'll pay myself all that, and then next month you realise that actually you've nothing booked in. It's probably less than minimum wage, based on the fact that from what I pay myself and the hours that I put in to earn that money, I'm probably earning pence an hour like I was when I was a school teacher. On paper, a school teacher is earning something like it's about £50 an hour. When you actually look at the job and the hours that you spend, you're actually earning probably less than £3 an hour. And this is very similar to that. But again, as long as you can get a wage out of it and a living, you can live off it, then it's worth doing, and that's fine. If I came to a point where I couldn't get a living out of it, then I would probably have to stop and go get a job in Tesco or somewhere, because things are getting more expensive. That's also a concern at the moment. We're in a bit of a cost of living sort of crisis still, so there are concerns there with how much I can afford to pay myself. But sorry, got a dusty shift light. But at the moment I can still afford to pay myself enough to survive, so that's fine, and still have a life. That also draws me on to the next point, which is a very valid early point, really, is the cost of setting up. If you want to set up a garage like this, now, I always had an inclination that I might end up setting up on my own. I did this for a living, and I enjoyed doing it for a living. I worked for someone else. I worked for Yorkshire Triumphs, and I enjoyed that. It is a lot less stressful for when you work for someone because you don't have the customer side of things to deal with. So the bills and such forth, and the invoicing and blah, blah, blah. But I also had experience of how to run it, because I'd watched how the business worked and I'd learned about it. I'd also started collecting tools many years ago. So I've been watching how the business was run, and I was collecting tools. Now, some of the tools I had a very, very good welder. I've had that like 30 years, and it's still a bloody good welder, and I keep that. Excuse me. My compressor, I bought a good compressor, quite a large compressor to have in my garage, because I thought, if I start a garage, it was secondhand, it came off eBay, but the fact is, it was a good compressor, and I knew it was good enough to get me started. So a lot of the tools I've got, some are cheap and a bit rubbishy, some are very old, hand-me-downs and things like that are excellent quality. But I knew I had enough to get started. And once you've got those tools, then you can move forward. Once you're making some money, then you can buy new ones. If you're not going to make any money, well, you haven't lashed out £50,000 on tools and equipment. Things like my ramp came from Yorkshire Triumphs. When the owner retired, I bought that off him. If you buy a cheap ramp and it's absolutely unusable and you have to have it refurbished and stuff, that would be an extra expense. I bought that dirt cheap. I knew it was a good ramp. He sold me it. I knew it was only a few months old, and I knew it worked. So I had no concerns there to buy a second-hand ramp. Would I buy another second-hand one? Probably not. I'd probably buy a new one. I do want a second ramp at some point. So the cost of setting up is high. Now, I was lucky because I had some savings in the bank at the time. I'd recently sold my house. So Financially, I didn't have any huge concerns. If all this had gone pear-shaped in the first 12 months and I hadn't made a bean or even broken even, I could afford to do that. And that's not me being smug. That's just me saying I was in a lucky position. So you need to think about that money. You need to think about what you've got. You need to think about what you're going to, whether you've got enough to survive or how much you're going to need to survive. And it is obviously a lot better to have some money, some savings held back for if you need them. As luck would have it, we didn't need to use those savings, and they could go for what they were, obviously to pay off the mortgage on the new house. But the fact was that was a relaxing point. The other thing I had, which was very, very important, was work. So I brought some work, some contacts, some customers from York's Triumphs, which meant that I had cars coming in. I didn't have to rely on trying to get my name out there, which can take anywhere up to about 5 years. Now, your name goes out there quite quickly, obviously, social media and things like that. However, getting it out there and well known and passed on, which is the best form of advertising, and yes, I've worked in advertising, does take a number of years, 4 to 5 years. Your income to get up to a decent level is probably going to be at least 4 to 5 years. So my other advice, or my next advice point there, would be to start this as young as you possibly can. It's a big risk, it's a big investment, but at my age, if you were starting now, luckily I'm not starting now, but if I was starting now at 50, would I want to be doing this? Would I be wanting to wait till I was nearly 60 to be making a living? Probably not, because the job is quite physically demanding. It keeps me fit and it keeps me healthy, and it keeps me alive, and I enjoy it, but it is still quite physically difficult. That leads me to a next point, staff. People say, why don't you have a couple of staff in here? You look at all these cars, you've got loads of work coming in. You could have somebody else working on that. Well, that's a toughie for me because I have very demanding standards. I'm quite OCD, and I like everything to be absolutely the physical best it can be. That therefore means that if I had staff in, I'd have to go through the whole application process. I'd have to go through the whole interviewing process. I'd have to take somebody on. If it turns out that they fibbed a little bit and they weren't very good and I had to teach them, then obviously that's going to cost me money and it's going to cost me time, and that work isn't moving forward, and then you're not getting a wage. If you have staff, they have to make your company more money than you are paying them. And it has to be significantly more money. So if you're paying someone, say, £2,000 a month, $1,800, $1,900, whatever that is, you have to be taking about £3,000 to £4,000 a month extra in because of them. Because you have to pay them if they're off sick. Because you have to pay them if they're on holiday. You have to cover absences. You have to spend time teaching them. You have to, there aren't many people out there who can actually do every aspect of the job like I can. So it doesn't faze me to cover seats. It doesn't faze me to fit a convertible roof or paint panels or do welding and grinding and electrical work. I love electrical work. I'm weird. But the fact is, I don't mind doing it. There aren't many people who work on their own who can do every aspect of a job. There are certain aspects I farm out, but not many. I can fit windscreens, I can fit glass, I can do all that sort of stuff. I have a can-do attitude to that sort of thing, and it means I've learned to do a lot of these different skills. Yes, I worked for York's Triumphs, which helped me a huge amount to hone my skills. But also my dad had a garage when I was a child, so I also picked up a lot of that, and probably the love of the cars from there too. So that helped a great deal in the past. Getting the skills, you can't sort of take a business on. Say you want to become a car restorer and you think, you know what, I love cars. I'd like to do that. I've got a hot rod. I've got a classic car. I've got whatever. I want to do that. And you go, oh, right. So did you build that? Well, no, but I've watched a video on YouTube. I've done this. I've done that. Oh, well, that's great then. Yeah, I'll just learn to do it as I go along. You can't do that. You can't spend the time learning because you can't charge that to your customer. If I had to teach myself to weld on the Austin 1100, I can't charge that customer £25,000 because it took me 25 times as long to do his sills, But also working in the environment, in the industry like I did at York's Triumphs particularly, you found how the best methods of doing things and how to make things correct and right. And sometimes you look at it and think, gosh, why are we doing that? But then you realise that it all comes together and works really, really well. A lot of the things you see on the internet and from word of mouth from other people, it's wrong. It's just wrong. Does it do the job? Possibly. But does it do it to the best it could be done? Not always. So that's also something to consider, getting the skills and having the skills and using the skills. I can build engines, I can paint panels, I can do bodywork. Am I the best bodywork man in the world? I'm pretty good. Am I as quick as a professional body work person? Not at all. No. If you asked me to do a pearl base and one of these fancy metallic bases or colour changes, I couldn't do that. But I know my limitations. So that draws me to the next point. Learning to say no. I made a faux pas when I opened this business. And because when I worked for Yorkshire Triumphs, we did Triumphs day in, day out. Love Triumphs. They're great. Absolutely lovely cars to work on. And I really, really do enjoy working on Triumphs. They are brill. While I was there, we did a Series 1 Land Rover for a lady. And we rechassied it, and I fitted up some of the works. I did some of it, didn't do it all. Did the brakes and blah, blah. And I loved it. It was a change. And change is good because it keeps you alive. Having changed 7 sets of stag sills that year, to do a Land Rover was like Christmas, especially because Land Rovers are like Meccano for adults. So that's a double bonus. But the fact is, change keeps you alive a little bit and focus. Now then, with that in mind, specialising is probably the best way forward. And I've realised that later on, that because I have tools, equipment and knowledge to do Triumphs and spare parts and all the stuff I bought from Yorkshire Triumphs and got given from Yorkshire Triumphs, they all use UNF bolts and UNC bolts. They all use this. TR7s use metrics, but they all use these engines and that engines and these valves and those valve springs and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot better and easier to specify. I did some work on a Honda S2000 and I needed, some of it I sort of had to learn as I went along. I had to buy new tools as I went along. Enjoyed doing it. Did a great job. It came out a beautiful car. Loved it. I say I did a great job. That's what the customer told me. He was over the moon. I did a lot of work on a Mercedes AMG. Loved that car. Absolutely fantastic car. And I enjoyed every moment of working on it. But the downside was to strip the rear axle. I had to spend £150 on tools. Male torques, female splines, male splines, 20mm spanners. I'm 50 years old. I've never used a 20mm spanner. And I'll never use it again. And that's the downside, because I've now spent that money and invested that money on those tools. Okay, 150 quid isn't a lot, but that money has come directly out of my pocket, because that's money that would have been profit and I could have paid myself, which is what you've got to remember if you run your own business. So buying superfluous tools because you're doing a bit of everything. I did a wheel bearing on a BMW Z3. Brill car, loved it. Great customers, all of these. No reflection on the customers, the lovely people, every one of them. But I had to buy an impact socket that cost me £36. The whole job was only a 2-hour job. So basically that's cut a massive amount off your job, or 3-hour job, whatever it was. I can't remember now. But that's cut a massive amount of money off. I think it was 40 quid, that socket. So that sort of thing, if I just stuck to Triumphs, I need a 27mm socket. I've got a 27mm socket. I've got a special tool for setting the mixtures on Solex carburetor, on Zenith carburetors. I've got tools for doing the distributor on Stags. I've got all the gear for everything really, and all that knowledge to balance carbs, set them up, and blah blah blah. So in that respect, specialising in something, be it welding, be it fabrication, be it some aspect, I have diversified too far. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't regret it at all. I still enjoy working on everything. I enjoy working on Japanese cars like my Skyline. I love working on my Capri, my Ford. I still adore my Minis and Triumphs, anything older now. That said, I've got more established, learned to say no. And that's an important skill you need to get. Once you're at a point where you don't need to take every job on because you need the work, and some jobs are going to be killers and you're not going to make much money out of it, I can actually say to someone now, I'm sorry, I can't do that, or I'm sorry, that's not something I need to do, because you just know it's not in your interests, really. And it's nice trying to help everyone, but at the end of the day, as I said before, I'm not a charity. I am unfortunately a business, and I can't sort of put off jobs that will pay more than that, if you like, and are a lot easier to do. So that's the other thing. Oh, that brings me to another valuable point, and I'll draw it to a close after this one. Last and probably important point that you need to listen to as well as observers and customers, potentially, if not of me, of other people. Bookings. Now, for small bookings or potential bookings, I usually take a deposit when the car arrives, if it's going to be a large job, obviously. What I will say about booking in is, I convert probably about a tenth of the prices I give out. So of every 10 customers, probably one of them comes back. If you do 10 customers and 5 of them come back, that's quite a revelation. So it can be annoying to go. I once drove for a good hour to go view a car for a guy, because obviously it was immobile, it was stripped down, and I gave him an idea of price for doing some work on the car, and he went, "Oh, how much?" And I went, "Well, that's a really competitive price for that, I can assure you, and it will be finished to the, it'll be perfect." And obviously I've never heard from him again. I think he was still in the ilk of, you can get a spray job for £1,000, which you can't. There's £750 of the materials in this spray job, so it doesn't happen. So when you book your car in with me, your engine to be built, your whatever, and you say to me, "Yeah, when can I bring it in?" And I say, "Well, bob it down the 1st of March, please." I then don't take any more work because I've got that work coming in. So if you therefore then don't appear, you don't ring me, you don't email me, you don't get in touch, you don't let me know, then I have no work. And as a one-man band, that is very, very difficult. Because then I've no money. And yes, I can tootle around on my own car, but the fact is, if I've made a space for you and you don't let me know that isn't going to happen, then I have no work, because I've put other work, I've booked it in later on. So I've said, I have a car coming in on the 1st of March. I know he'll turn up. I have no doubts about it. I've worked on his car before when I was at Yorkshire Triumphs, and I know it'll come. You do get an inclination of who is dreaming and has ideas above their station, and who is actually going to appear with their car and ask for it done. So on some occasions, I'll say, "Yeah, that'll be, I can get you in on the 1st of March. And at no point do I ever stop accepting other work. And you think, well, if it comes in, I'll have to, I'll do that, and I'll have to let them know. Keeping your customer informed is absolutely crucial in this job. But yeah, so if you then don't show up and you don't let me know, I am then without any work for that period of time. Now, luckily for me, I usually have a bit of a waiting list. So it's reduced in length a little recently, but usually I have about a year's work sort of waiting or booked in. So I can therefore say, right, I've had a cancellation, I can move you forward. But just letting somebody know, a small business person, that is, if you've booked them in, it's just not fair. It really isn't. If you could just drop them a text, drop them a phone call, drop them a WhatsApp, drop them anything, just to say, I know it's not always comfortable and easy, but the fact is, I'm not going to lose my temper or get upset. I'm just going to say, okay, thank you. And that's the end of it, But booking your car in and then letting someone down is really poor, in my, for what it's worth, humble opinion. And it does, it leaves you very dangerous with your income and things like that, especially when turnover is what is essential in a small business for somebody like myself. Last thing, I remember when I first opened my business, and a chap was talking about going into business who I work with, and he said, "Oh, I'm no good at this. I'm not clever like you are. I can't do the books and the paperwork and all, dealing with all this, that, and the other, and pricing jobs up." Don't be afraid of the paperwork side of it. It's dead easy, okay? And it is one of the easiest things. I actually quite enjoy it. Everything you purchase, you set up an account with. I have an account with Davmac in Retford. They supply all my run-of-the-mill stuff, so spark plugs, fan belts, antifreeze, screen wash. Excuse me. So they supply me all that. So I set up an account with them. I order my stuff. When they drop it off, they give me an invoice. I take that home and file it in a folder the day they give me it. all you have to do is file all your invoices in a folder. So if I buy anything off eBay, that invoice goes in my folder. If they don't send an invoice, I print the one off that's on eBay and blah, blah, blah. Very, very easy. Quite enjoyable. Now, people go, oh, you have to stay right. And my girlfriend said yesterday, you have to stay right on top of it. I said, not really. As long as you keep those invoices, if I haven't done any for about 6 months, I can probably do the whole lot in 3 hours. You only have to file it together. You don't have to do anything else with it. You just file it all in a folder, put your business bank statements in there, and then my accountant sorts it all out. I give it all to her. She charges me a figure, which isn't a great deal anyway. She goes through all my folders. She looks at what I've taken in, what I've paid out, works out the profit or loss, all the wages, blah, blah, blah. She sends that off. I have to sign it and send it off to the tax office, and that's it. It's done. And then they send me a tax bill, and then you have X months to pay your tax bill. She does that. My year end comes up. I drop her my books in as soon as my year end's up, usually within about a week of the year end. You do have sort of 12 months to do it, but what's the point? So I get it straight in. She then tots it all up within a few days. Usually it was a couple of weeks this time, which is, that's great, really. And then I know where I stand. So it's really nothing to worry about. So yeah, I'll draw it to a close there. Hope I haven't put you off. If you want to do it, everybody I know who's in their own business loves it. If they weren't, they don't stick around. If people try things, if it isn't for them, they give it up. I think the most important thing is trying it. I love what I do. Some days I have stressful days. Some days I have days where I look literally homeless and broken. And some days I don't. And some days are great. And some days that's great. I have lots of people who are great customers, who are, friends and customers, and people come down and see me. And yeah, I love it. I like being recognised from YouTube. That's always a bonus when somebody goes, I know your face. And I say, is it Crime Watch? And they go, no, it's YouTube, isn't it? And that's brill as well. Am I going to become a YouTube millionaire? No. Nearly covered. I broke my phone doing YouTube videos, and I haven't earned enough to pay for the back of the phone yet, which was, I think it was £19 delivered. But anyway, it's bought me a few cups of tea, and I quite enjoy doing it. So I'll draw it to a close. If you want to give it a go, give it a go. Just do something you enjoy doing, and that you can do. Because if you can't do it, you're not going to enjoy doing it. That's the upshot of it. Play to your skills. If you want to, you never get anywhere without taking a chance. So take a chance and enjoy it. Do it. Is it going to work for everyone? No. Probably not. But unless you try, you'll never know. I'll draw it to a close. I'll probably not film myself trying to climb back out the Capri because it's not pretty. But yeah, so thanks for watching. If you haven't liked and subscribed, do so. If you have any questions about this or anything else I do, please feel free to ask. I love reading your comments. I like all the likes. I like all the subscriptions. I like all of it, really, to be honest. I enjoy it. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Right. Marvellous.